Alright everyone, today we'll have two videos involving the Seattle Autonomous Zone, and for those that don't already know what that is, a bunch of communists and anarchists are LARPing as though they've staged a successful revolutionary coup in Seattle. And so I guess they control several blocks of the city, and the police are like, they've pulled back because they're like, who fucking cares? Nobody apparently is having particular problems with them. They're just sort of marching around pretending that they're in control of something. It's very funny. One of the first things that these so-called anarchists did was form like trust squads and shit like that to police the area. Interesting how spontaneous organization results from a vacuum in power. Interesting how they appear to have as well a de facto leader. It's very interesting, and that's, you know, a different situation, which is even more fucking cringy. These people are basically cringe lords, but first, before I talk about really the deeper political angle of it, that'll be a separate video, I wanted to talk specifically about their Sad Antifa Garden. I'm going to start calling it the commie crops, and this is an example of why communists often starve, as apparently none of them know how to grow food. Long story short, they got a bunch of cardboard, put it on the open turf of a public park in these little like circular garden beds, maybe 15 feet wide or something, and then put soil on it, and then they pop seedlings in. Now, in principle, under the right climatic conditions, I guess that's fine, but Seattle is very, very wet and humid. The Pacific Northwest gets a huge amount of rain. The first time you have a significant rainstorm, and it's thunderstorm season, I believe now as well, keep that in mind, a lot of that soil is going to erode away. You don't have any border around the beds. There's no proper drainage. It's not raised up. And you've created a semi-impermeable layer below your actual bed that's going to waterlog the roots of those plants and kill them. So they don't know what they're doing. I would be surprised if they use the right soil. They've made no effort at companion planting. I don't see the carrots and tomatoes next to each other, so to speak. And you've planted like half of the shit and there's just salad greens. By the way, it's going to take so long for these plants to mature, even if they do survive, to the point where they're edible. By then, I guarantee your autonomous zone will have been dismantled. Local business owners will have a problem. An altercation will occur, someone will get stabbed, and then the troops will come in. And then they'll bash some commie skulls, and they'll have to replant the turf here. By the way, wouldn't the turf in a Seattle park, wouldn't it be full of pesticides and shit? I don't even know that I'd want to eat it if you were successful, to tell the honest truth. I think it would be better to build raised beds in a fucking parking lot, actually. Ironically enough, it'd be better to do that. And you've already got painted lines. You can set out a grid. And by the way, the organization of this doesn't make any sense. There's like, they've got this little fence, I guess, around one of the beds now that's like 2 feet tall. It's like, I guess that's mainly to keep foot traffic out, to keep drunk people who are stoned and so forth from stumbling through the vegetables. You should have planted better crops. I mean, and the gardener in me, I know this is kind of flippant, it's more of a funny video, but the gardener in me is like, what the fuck are you fucking doing? No attempt whatsoever. It's like a 2 out of 10 effort at best. The tomatoes might do okay. I mean, if the plants survive long enough for the soil not to erode completely and they don't get totally waterlogged, some of them might even produce. But, I mean, with tomato seedlings, you're going to have to wait at least a month before you get green tomatoes off these plants. I know Seattle has a relatively good growing season because of the climate. It's more coastal. It's sort of moderated by the ocean. Sort of like here, actually, only, you know, rainier. But come on, I mean, there's no real legitimacy to the autonomous zone. The idea that you're going to be there for more than a couple of weeks of lockdown-infused vacation, since I guess the college system in the U.S. isn't functioning right now for the most part, so all of these kids, they don't have anything to do except do their online women's studies courses, so they decided to take up agronomy. The problem is, I guess nobody there understands soil science. I guess they don't have any hobbyist gardeners there. Why don't you get some little old ladies together and let them show you how to make a proper community garden? You can branch out. You know, there are all sorts of wonderful things that you can do. You could do lasagna gardening with layers of brown and green, and this is sort of like living compost. You can use, you can create charcoal. You can try to make terra preta. You can use hugelkulturing methods. Of course, you'll have to slash down all the trees in the park in order to do it. I don't know where else you're going to get wood in Seattle. This is like the perfect example of a poorly thought out, unplanned endeavor that spontaneously organizes and almost immediately devolves, by the way, into infighting. And you watch what'll happen. Much like in Spain, you know, long, long ago. The anarchists, the more pure ones, and the communists that are more like tankies and shit, will start to fighting. You get a few drinks in these people. Somebody should give them free beer and see what happens. That's, by the way, a totally fake suggestion. I'm just joking. Nobody should get these people liquored up and see how quickly order breaks down in this camp of theirs. Gardening sucks dick. I mean, it does. Look at it. It's pathetic. There were like 6 threads up on 4chan last night at the same fucking time on the same fucking subject because it's blowing people's minds at how incompetent this is. Now, if you got a bunch of far-right survivalist separatist preppers together, I guarantee you they could grow more than enough of a surplus so they could make money off of their crops. Of course, they probably wouldn't choose a downtown location in Seattle to occupy. They'd probably buy a ranch or something. Do these people, by the way, look, these are all privileged, trust fund, middle-class gated community kids. If you were to get together with 1,000 other anarcho, commie, whatever, I guarantee you could, GoFundMe would probably help with this since they don't ban people for terrorist activities unless they get a Gadsden flag behind them. You could probably buy a 500-acre ranch or something. You could easily, you realize how cheap land is in certain parts of the country, including in areas that are pretty arable. You got into like Oklahoma or something. See, the problem is that then it'd be like the crazy cult there that moved in one time. I can't remember exactly what the name of it was. Bhagwan. That one, the famous one from, they tried to flee the country in a Learjet at one point, and then they sort of dragged him around in order to get him to plead guilty. But his people there, they built a massive-ass commune out in the hills, out in the hinterlands. And then there were nothing but legal problems from that point forward. But at least they tried. They were largely pacifistic. I think Antifa might have difficulty, though, because it doesn't appear that they know how to farm. You know, you could actually do that, though. You could have, like, a semi-separatist sort of, like, a Waco-style thing. Most often, people like that tend to be on the right, or they tend to be religious groups. The left, for some reason, prefers to occupy a burned-out tenement. And then they say, well, we're going to grow our tomatoes in the middle of what used to be a park. By the way, you know, your tax money, since your parents are all, again, middle-class, trust fund sort of crowd, your urban dentist parents and stuff that have spoiled, rotten kids, that's where Antifa breeds from, their tax money is going to have to go to pay for that damage. And the little old community garden ladies, they'll have their retirement checks. The little bit more will be withheld from them because of Antifa. It'll be very funny. I know this is just sort of a rant, but I mean, come on. Look at the pictures for yourself. Look at the Chaz Zone garden. Oh my God. It's just, it's hilarious. It really is. There's really, I mean, their effort is so pathetic. And the jokes write themselves, because of course communism is highly correlated with starving, or with too much soy consumption and therefore a soy belly, which is interesting. All the like people in their 20s that nonetheless have a dad bod because of all the soy that they've had, all the soy smoothies and stuff. I mean, where are the soybean crops here? And by the way, legumes would actually be a better choice than the arugula. This is the Antifa Victory Garden. It's filled with salad greens. I guess they're going for we're going to start a restaurant afterward. When I get a little, I'm going to take the mask off and start a business with Daddy's money, she says as she prepares to to serve up another totally organic greens meal in commemoration of the week that we were autonomous, or at least we're just pretending. That's about all. Peace out.